on YouTube. It's Saturday. What is it? The 14th of September. We had an eclipse today. Very, potent energy and shit. But here we go. Time for a live stream, and we're gonna let you know all about the subscriber league, how it's going, who's uh who's up top, who's on the bottom. The standings and everything. And we're gonna preview all the matchups this week. Let you know what I think overall. So let's take a look, shall we? Take a look at the standings real quick. We got Johnny Football at 4-1 up top, and he has also led the league in points, 659, definitely more than anybody else by quite a big margin. So Johnny Football currently at the head of the pack, and he's tied at 4-1 with Hertz Different, who is also justifiably number 2 in scoring. And then number 3, 1 point behind him, is Pasture Interferents, who's 3-2. Number 4, Salisbury Suicide. And number 5 would be Tyler Higbeast. For the most part, in terms of scoring, everyone is justifiably in the playoff picture if they scored enough. But Longhorned Titans also at 3-2. GoGo Bongzilla at 2-3. Bongzilla is actually 5th in scoring, so a bit of a unlucky stretch in terms of matchups there. But I am in 8th place, also at 2-3, and the LaSalle difference, remember from high school, also at 2-3 in 9th place. GOATMODE in 2-3. Brown&Out at 1-4, and Internally Screaming at in last place, also at 1-4. Internally Screaming has had a brutal season, 441 points this year. Pretty rough. It's not gotten any luck this year, but it's a very competitive league. I think anyone can make it back to the top, at least make it into the playoff picture, and is viable at the very least. But Emile Collier asking us a question: trade Laporta for Higgins. I mean, it depends on who you have at tight end, because I got to be honest with you, Laporta is a top 5 tight end at the moment, and I think that's the case rest of season. I don't know. I really think it's about roster construction. I feel like there's an argument to be made for Laporta, and there's also an argument to be made for Higgins. Like, if let's say you have Kittle and Laporta, okay, I would probably do it if you're not deep at tight end. But if your backup to Laporta is like, I don't know, Logan Thomas, and you have relatively stacked receivers, like Higgins is already kind of on your bench, I would not do that. I think it's really dependent on your roster construction and how important Laporta is to your starting lineup. So I would probably keep him. Looks like Jonathan agrees, and it looks like I was correct. Your backup is Logan Thomas. Yeah, I would stick with Laporta. I would keep on to Laporta, because Higgins has been extremely up and down, very hard to trust this season. And while there is like solid volume for him, I don't think having, like, moving on from Laporta to move to Logan Thomas would be okay. Thomas is very matchup dependent, so I would hold on to Laporta, to be honest with you. Higgins kind of scares me a little bit, but Jonathan, gotta watch the stream after the Oregon versus UW game. Go Ducks, go for it, man. It'll be here when you come back. But we will get into the matchups. The matchups on the subscriber league. We will get into that real soon. Just gotta get myself situated over here. So yeah, let's take a look at the scoreboard this week and take a look at the matchups. I'll start with my own. I'll start with my team and who I'm going up against, what I think will happen, and how it's looking. But David R3, F it. Yeah, sometimes that's got to be the motto. Sometimes you just got to fuck it. Just get on with it. Take your chances. But I'm going up against Longhorned Titans, who's 3-2, hoping to make it to 3-3 myself. And at the moment, I am projected to win. At the moment, I am projected for 111, and my opponent projected for 105. Mahomes put up 21.4, but he was supposed to put up like 27, so he was a little bit underwhelming for what Longhorned Titans needed. And I'll be honest, I have like kind of hesitant expectations. I'm a little bit worried about my running back matchups this week. I got Breece Hall against Philly. That's a terrible matchup. And then Derrick Henry against Baltimore. A little bit worried about Tyjae Spears, who I have on my bench, vulturing some touches from him. But Henry should bounce back. Overall, Henry should put up good numbers. And at the very least, I have two top 20 backs. He has Joe Mixon and James Cook, who I don't think either of them will be top 10 this week. So hopefully it's somewhat even at running back. I got Kirk Cousins at QB stacked with Jordan Addison. Addison's about to go off for the next month, so I feel pretty good about Addison. And then Cooper Kupp finally. Last week he returned from IR, so I'm very happy about that. Really worried about my opponent starting Amari Cooper with PJ Walker under center. Devontae Smith had a brutal game last week and kind of catches a break with Sauce Gardner being out for this one. So I feel like I will make up some points at wide receiver that I will lose at running back. Hopefully that keeps it even because Goddard versus Mark Andrews is a bit of a toss-up. Goddard has an elite matchup, but he's been kind of brutal this season. And then my opponent lost Miles Sanders, has to start Jake Ferguson at the flex, and I might go Michael Gallup, to be honest with you, if that was my team. But they're both Cowboys. I think that's a fair call. Ferguson has been better this season, so it is what it is. But I got Drake London in a great matchup, hoping that he shows up. I have him ranked top 30 this week, so fingers crossed there. And then in the same game, we're rolling with the Raiders defense versus the Pats defense. That'll be interesting. But maybe my kicker will boost some volume for me. He has a good kicker as well, Nick Folk. So I think this is going to be very close, but I am projected to win. I'm hoping that holds, hoping to get back to 500. But we got some questions, and Brad McCoy is asking, start Foreman or Brian Robinson this week? That's a good question. Let me check my rankings real quick. I have Brian Robinson at number 19. I have Deontay Foreman at number 25. I would be going with Brian Robinson, my friend. I know that last week was brutal for Robinson, but I really think it was matchup and game script dependent. It was supposed to be a good matchup, but they just really showed up on Thursday night, and then once they took a big lead, the Commanders just couldn't really keep him on the field. Brian Robinson was kind of shut out in terms of touches. But the Falcons aren't a great matchup, to be honest with you. They're bottom 5, actually. They haven't allowed a single touchdown this season, and it's kind of game script dependent as well. So I think it's a very legit question. I think if you prefer Foreman, I wouldn't look at you crazy, but we just don't really know what exactly to predict with that Bears offense. I mean, with no Khalil Herbert, no Roshan Johnson, like last week, Deontay Foreman was a healthy scratch. So I can't say I'm really confident in Foreman. I at least know what Brian Robinson's role is supposed to be. It's intended to be. And that's where I'm going to stick with the more dependent option, the more proven player on his respective team, because I just can't tell you with confidence what is going to happen with Deontay Foreman in that backfield. He should get the touches. He should be okay, but his matchup is also bottom 12, and I think he's much more touchdown dependent than Brian Robinson is, who is also as well this week. So it's not ideal, but I do have Brian Robinson top 20, got Foreman at 25. I would be going Brian Robinson, Brad McCoy. But Emile Collier, thoughts on Amari Cooper with Deshaun Watson out? I am worried, my friend. I am not looking forward to it. My opponent is starting Amari Cooper, who I think might be a bit of a break for yours truly. It's not a good matchup against San Francisco, and that's for sure going to be to his detriment on top of the PJ Walker start at QB. So I would not feel too confident. I don't think he's an automatic start. I really think it's dependent on who you have. And as I was mentioning in the injury updates video, I've dropped Amari Cooper, previously wide receiver 23. Now he's my wide receiver 35. So Amari Cooper is very much a low-end flex option this week, not an automatic start at all. This matchup is average, only 16 points to the receiver position this season allowed, so not ideal. but we just really have no idea what to expect. I don't think it'll be as bad, excuse me, as Dorian Thompson Robinson under center. Like DTR was brutal. Cooper only put up 2.1, and PJ Walker has like a better floor, is a little bit more legit, but I don't feel too good about it. I really worry with Amari Cooper. You can check out my rankings on that video, on the final rankings and injury updates video that I posted about an hour or two ago. Yeah, about an hour and a half. So you can see who I would prefer over him. If you want to ask me a straight up question in terms of like Cooper versus someone else, go for it. But I would probably be benching Amari Cooper in most instances. But Brad is also asking, do I trade Brian Robinson for Stevenson? No, no, you do not trade for Stevenson. Stevenson is not a player we're targeting at all. We are very concerned about that Patriots offense. Maybe if Bailey Zappi is the QB, things might change, but I doubt it. I don't want a Patriot in my starting lineup anytime soon. Brian Robinson is much more of a secure option, I think, than Ramondre. So no thank you with Ramondre. I would hold on to Brian Robinson. But David R3 has a tough one apparently. Brandon or Waddle at the flex? I mean, I assume you mean Brandon Ayuk. The only other Brandon I could think of would be Brandon Cooks, and that one wouldn't be tough at all. So yeah, Ayuk or Waddle at the flex. I am gonna go with Ayuk, my friend. Waddle bailed you out with a touchdown last week, but it was his best game and only put up like 12 points. So I still don't really trust Waddle. I know he had 10 targets last week, but Ayuk has been like really consistent, except for the game where he was like injured. He's catching every fucking target sent his way. And last week was just so productive from Kittle. They didn't really need Ayuk to show up too much. So I trust Ayuk very much. I have Ayuk ranked at number 14. This Cleveland matchup isn't the best, but I'm not too worried about it. I wouldn't bench Ayuk. I have Ayuk at 14. I have Waddle at 21. So I would be sticking with Brandon Ayuk, my friend. You definitely have two top 10 receivers in Keenan and St. Brown. And give me Ayuk at the flex. But yes, it's Brandon Ayuk, and you the man, F it. Thank you. Thanks, bro. Appreciate it. And then Jaws is asking, after I answer this question, I'm going to get back to some of those matchups for the subscriber league. Zach Moss or Deontay Foreman? Good question, my friend. I think I'm going to go Zach Moss. I have him at number 22. I have Foreman at 25, so it's very close. I think it's a very legit question. If you worry about Moss, I understand, but there's really nothing to prove why you should be confident in Foreman other than like the lack of committee. And I know that Taylor should be getting back to speed soon. Taylor has that big contract, but last week only saw 10 snaps. It'll probably be closer to 50-50 this week. Definitely would lean in that direction, but Moss looked really productive, and his matchup is pretty average. It's not terrible. Actually, it's bottom six. I take that back. The matchup for Moss is actually not good at all. Whereas Foreman's matchup is like number 20 overall. So it's not good for either of them. But I think from a production standpoint, Moss looked really good last week. And I think I would stick with who I've seen this season and go with Zach Moss. I see your question, Nick. I just need to get back to the subscriber league real quick. I will answer your question in just a minute. Promise you that. But in terms of the subscriber league matchups, we have a battle of top three teams. We have Pasture Interferents versus Johnny Football. So one of these teams is going to move down the rankings a little bit, and should be an interesting battle because the projection is very high. The Interference is projected to win at 130, whereas Johnny Football has 125 projected. But projections don't mean shit. I wouldn't read too much into that. I think it's a very even game. I think I might prefer Justin Herbert at QB over Tua, but not by a ton. The matchup for Herbert is a bit tough, whereas Tua should be more involved with that running back core banged up for sure. And then in terms of the running back spots for these two, Bijan versus Dave Montgomery, That's a toss up. That's very even, very legit. And then Kenneth Walker versus Kyron Williams. Both of them could score 2 touchdowns. I think it's a wash at these two starting running back positions. So pretty even up to this point. And then we have 2 top 5 wide receivers in Jamar Chase and Stephon Diggs. Very even again. I think with T. Higgins coming back, I might favor Diggs, but barely. I think there's more upside with Chase, but maybe a higher floor with Diggs. And then 2 top 10 options this week. DJ Moore with a great matchup, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown with that elite top 10 floor. Very consistent every single week. But then Sam Laporta versus Logan Thomas. I do lean Laporta even with that calf injury. I still think he's more trustworthy, even though Thomas has an elite matchup. I think he's very legit. But here's where I think it favors the interference. Ayuk versus Marquise Brown is definitely favoring Ayuk. Brown has a bit of an illness, but he should be fine. The matchup is not very good against the Rams. So I would go with Ayuk to push him over the top. Then we got the Bills versus the 49ers, my number 1 and 2 defense this week. And then Jake Moody versus Brandon Aubrey. It might come down to the kickers, honestly. This is a elite matchup. These are 2 very scary teams. Definitely going to be in the playoff picture all season long. I wouldn't be shocked if these are the number 1 and 2 overall seeds in the subscriber league. Not excited to face off against them myself. But on the bench, is there anyone I would push into the starting lineup? I don't think so. I think it was wise to bench Judy. Rashad White, not a player I think would move into there. There's such good options on both of these teams. I wouldn't push it. I might go Justin Tucker over the Cowboys kicker, though. That's interesting why this team has 2 kickers. That's not what I would do personally. I think you only need to roster 1 kicker. Once Anthony Richardson comes back, definitely going to drop one of those kickers. But yeah, that's what these 2 teams are looking like. The bench on Johnny Football, way more solid. I think it gets really thin for the bench of the Interferents real quick. But this week, I think I'm going to go with the Interferents. I think they're going to go 4-2. I think Johnny Football, who is projected to lose by 5, I think will falter. But let's get back to the comment section in the chat. Sorry, Nick, for the delay. But pick 3, half PPR, A.J. Brown, Lamb, Ridley, or Puka. Damn! Got some good options here. But I think you're obviously starting A.J. Brown and Puka. I think A.J. Brown has been clearly top 5 this season, 24 points per game the last 3 weeks. So you trust him for sure. And then last week, even though Cooper Kupp returned, Puka looked very productive, very solid. I have both of them ranked top 10. I think you're 100% starting A.J. Brown and Puka. And that means it's between Lamb and Ridley. And I think it's a question of, do you want to chase the upside or do you want to stick with the floor? Because I have them literally back to back in my top 12. I think you can't really go wrong with either. I do have Lamb ranked 1 spot above Calvin Ridley this week. I have Lamb at 11 and Ridley at 12. The only reason I have Lamb higher, though, is because the matchup against the Chargers on paper is supposed to be elite. The Chargers cannot stop the pass, and maybe after the bye, they have a much better game plan, perhaps. I don't really know what to expect, but odds are they're not going to be that much better. So that's why I've upgraded CeeDee Lamb. But Lamb has been so fucking hard to trust this year, really underwhelming, very inconsistent, and that offense just doesn't look right. So I think if it wasn't for the matchup, I would definitely be benching CeeDee Lamb, but because of the matchup, I think I'm going to keep him in there. At some point, it should bounce back. At some point, he should be elite, but I just don't really like the Mike McCarthy offense very much. I think if you just want to roll with Ridley, that's absolutely legit. There's no Zay Jones, so there should be more targets for him. And Ridley looked really good week 1 against these same Colts. It's a good matchup for him as well. The Colts are top 10 against the position, giving up 32 points per game. And Ridley in week 1 put up 8 for 101 and a touchdown. So he could easily do that again. But last week, he didn't find the end zone. He had 7 catches for 122 yards. He looked like the player we drafted last week. So I think I trust Ridley more in terms of a floor. I would probably start Ridley, to be honest with you. But if you just want to chase the matchup, chase the upside, maybe you're projected to lose, you're a little worried about it, I think CeeDee Lamb has the higher ceiling this week just because the matchup is so good. But the floor is definitely way lower. He only has one game this year with over 7 targets, over 4 catches, and over 80 yards receiving. So I worry about it considerably. But it's between Lamb and Ridley, and I think it's kind of your call. I have them back to back. I think if I was just trying to play it safe and just guarantee production, I think I would go Ridley, to be honest with you. Even though I have Lamb ranked one spot higher, it feels a little more risky given his lack of track record this season. So that would be my preference. I think for safety, give me Ridley. And then for the upside, give me Lamb, but it does come with more risk. It's definitely not a clear, obvious pick, but looks like that's where you are thinking as well. Your head is at that same spot. Yeah, I think odds are I'm just going to play it safe. I think I'm just going to go with Ridley. I know the matchup tells you to start him, but damn, he's looked like shit this year. Like that Cowboys offense just isn't clicking. I would be a little worried about it. I might try and sell high on Lamb, to be honest with you, after this game. I think if he does have a good one, it might not happen again, for at least not as good. So good luck to you. I think Ridley should show up, but definitely starting AJ Brown and Puka. That's for sure. But let's get back to the subscriber league and talk about another matchup. We have 3-2 Salisbury Suicide in the top 4, I believe, in terms of the standings versus GoGo Bongzilla, Jason Hopkins, one of the best teams in the league last year. GoGo Bongzilla was the 1 seed going into the playoffs, but did not win it all when it was all said and done. But we have Jared Goff versus Justin Fields. I definitely prefer Justin Fields this week. I think the matchup for Goff isn't like the best, whereas it's really good for Fields, and that rushing upside kind of puts him over the top. But Goff could always shock us, could easily go over 20 points. Wouldn't be crazy to see that happen. Fields could always flounder and put up a dud. I think if things go as I'm expecting, Fields will be the better play, though. I do have him ranked like 5 spots higher. But CMC versus Etienne. Everyone trusts CMC at number 1, so that's definitely the advantage there. But then Tony Pollard versus Brian Robinson. Pollard should be the better play here. So far it's leaning towards Salisbury Suicide. But wide receiver gets a little bit more dicey. Debo versus Nico could be a very close one. I think Debo will be better, but not by much. Collins is either giving you like 5 points or 20 plus. So hopefully, for the sake of GoGo Bongzilla, Nico shows up, but it's not a guarantee. Let's hope that happens. But Adam Thielen versus Chris Olave, I think the higher floor is Thielen, to be honest with you. But Olave has the better talent, should bounce back soon, but the matchup isn't the best. He's been a bit brutal the last 2 weeks as Derek Carr has been hurt and Kamara's been back on the field. So I think it's kind of getting closer to even, but I'd still prefer Salisbury, to be honest. But then George Kittle versus Tyler Conklin definitely shifts it in favor of GoGo Bongzilla. Kittle's much, much safer, much higher upside. Conklin does scare me quite a bit, but he has been a bit solid, like consistently like 5-6 targets. So maybe Conklin provides enough of a floor to keep him viable. But at the flex, we got Josh Reynolds versus KJ Osborne. Boy, that's a close one. That's going to be very interesting. I think I lean Reynolds, but not by a lot. I think I have them literally back to back in my rankings. I have KJ at 33, and I have Josh Reynolds at 31. DeAndre Hopkins is in between them. So yeah, I do prefer Josh Reynolds, but barely. And I do think the matchup is better for Osborne, but we just haven't quite seen it yet. It's hard to fully predict what that Vikings offense is going to look like. So that's really close. It's a real toss-up in this matchup. But then Texans defense against New Orleans versus the Ravens defense. The Ravens, I think, have the edge for sure. And then we have Will Lutz, who put up a bagel against Young Hui Koo. I think that might be the difference here. Yeah, that's pretty rough. A bagel at kicker, never going to help you. I would give it to GoGo Bongzilla to take the win, and he's projected for 10 points more on the scoreboard. So the kicker really, really shifts it. Yeah, that's a bummer. Young Hui Koo should be the big advantage in this matchup. But running back, up until tight end, I think Salisbury has the advantage. It's going to be a real close call, but I would take GoGo Bongzilla this week. Are there any players on the bench I would insert? Um, Not over here, and neither over here. Sutton bails you out with a touchdown, but yeah, I wouldn't have trusted him. I would have rather gone KJ. Interesting matchup this week. Very, very interesting. Hopefully Nico puts up a good game. Him and Brian Robinson could lose it. That's the unfortunate spot here. But I think he'll cover as long as McCaffrey doesn't go off. As long as Pollard and McCaffrey don't combine for like 60 points. I think Bongzilla gets the win. But let's get back to the comments. Nick says, thanks, man. Also, as you see, my wide receiver are stacked. Got a league mate who wants Gabe Davis. Is Gabe Davis for Rashad White for Bijan an absolute ripoff to him? He mentioned moving off Bijan half PPR. I mean, even if it is, like, if that's what he's willing to do, you definitely want Bijan in that spot. Yeah, you are absolutely loaded at wide receiver. You do not need Gabe Davis. Davis at some point is going to stop scoring touchdowns, be a little bit more of a risky bet. Sorry, I just want to get the lighting a little bit better. I'll get it later. If you can swap Gabe Davis and Rashad White for Bijan, 100% do it. Like, yeah, your league mates might be upset, but like you're trying to win. Get Bijan, 100%. Wow, that would be elite. That would be great. So good luck to you having that happen. I doubt it actually goes through, but if they're really willing to do it, try it. I have a feeling they're probably going to ask for CeeDee Lamb. I feel like you'd have to go CeeDee Lamb and Rashad White for Bijan. I think that's probably what gets it done. I really doubt they would go Gabe Davis and Rashad for Bijan. That would feel very foolish. I think a fairer trade, a much more fair trade, would be CeeDee Lamb and Rashad White for Bijan. But if you can get it done for Gabe, go for it. But to be honest with you, CeeDee Lamb versus Gabe Davis might actually be really close rest of season. At least name value, it does favor CeeDee Lamb. But David is asking, I'm going to run with James Cook, but I have Rashad White on the bench. I think that's the right call. I would agree. I think that is the right call. The game script and the matchup was actually really tough for James Cook last week, whereas Rashad White has been extremely inefficient, very touchdown dependent, and the Lions defense is actually top 5 against the run this year. So not a good matchup at all for Rashad. Decent matchup for James Cook, and should dominate the Giants. My only concern with James is that he gets vultured for a touchdown by either Josh Allen or Latavius Murray, Damian Harris. Like, it's a bit more of a committee than you would like, but Cook is definitely the player you want, and Cook should be much better. I would definitely roll with James Cook. Trust him a lot more than Rashad White. That is for sure. But Jeremy Robert is asking Collins or Higgins, and that is a very good question. I think if you want the ceiling, I think I would go Nico. Nico has been very up and down. 3 games with over 20 points, and then 2 games with like 5 or less. So Collins has been a bit up and down, very roller coaster. I think he's probably the more trustworthy play, especially if Tank Dell is unavailable. Tank Dell has that concussion, so there should be like good volume for Collins this week. I think he'll be okay, but the matchup against Marshawn Lattimore is not the best, so I do actually have Nico ranked lower. It's a bit shocking to say, but T. Higgins should be getting 8 targets. Like, I know he's looked bad this year, but I feel like it's also partly because of Joe Burrow's injury, and with Higgins healthy enough to play this week, Joe Burrow looking a lot healthier, I actually do rank Higgins higher. But it's also a very kind of risky option. I think number 23 versus 27, that's where I have Higgins versus Collins. Higgins at 23, Nico at 27. It's a real toss-up. I think it's kind of like, if you prefer Collins much more than Higgins, I don't blame you at all. I do think the matchup is a little bit more difficult, though, for Nico, because if you look at the matchup against Seattle, It's truly elite. The Seahawks are giving up 39 points to the position. That's second most in the NFL. So it's really a plus matchup. And their secondary is a bit young. They're going to be more focused on Jamar Chase. And I can't imagine Jamar gets 19 targets again. Like, that's going to be more like 12 targets for Jamar, 8 for Higgins. I mean, even Trenton Irwin and Tyler Boyd had good volume last week. So Higgins should get the looks. I think if one of them was going to score a touchdown, I would expect it to be Higgins. So that's kind of the difference for me. It's that touchdown upside, and I do prefer Higgins just a little bit more. I think there's more points on the board in that Bengals game. So I personally would go T. Higgins, but I get it if you don't trust him enough and you're going to go with Nico, but just understand that sometimes Nico is a bit boom bust. You probably know that at this point if you've been starting him. So I would go T. Higgins, but just barely. Just barely. If you disagree and you really want to go with Collins, I don't think that's bad. I wouldn't argue with you too much. It's your team, so it's your call. But if it was me and I had that decision, I would go with T. Higgins. Yeah, that's what I would do. But let's get to the subscriber league. Another matchup here. We have 3 more to go, and we have Brown&Out versus GOATMODE. 2 teams on the bottom half of the standings, and Brown&Out gets 12.8 from Pacheco. Unfortunately, the touchdown did not hit with Pacheco. I was expecting a touchdown. It didn't happen, and Pacheco would have been really, really solid with 18.8 if that touchdown did happen. But he still put up almost 100 yards from scrimmage, 98 overall, and he was very productive as I expected. Just did not find the end zone, unfortunately. So a little bit disappointing with Pacheco. I do think he'll finish top 15, maybe top 20 at worst, but my ranking at number 11 would have looked a lot better if he found the end zone, which he did not. So a little bit of a bummer, but I don't think it's the end of the road. What kind of sucks is that Harrison Butker put up 17 and a half. That really sucks. I give 5.5 in this league for a 60-yarder. That extra half point is why Butker has 17.5, but that might be the difference there. The kicker really went off for GOATMODE, but at QB, I definitely prefer Lamar Jackson. Dak has been brutal this year, very hard to trust, so at least in that regard, it should favor Brown&Out. But Josh Jacobs over Alvin Kamara, I think, is the spot here. I think Jacobs will be top 10 this week. Kamara, a little bit more average. I have Kamara at like number 12, I believe, and then Jacobs at like number 7 or 8. So I think Jacobs will have the better game. He's been really good the last few weeks. Like, his volume has been 20 plus touches in every game except for that Bills game where the game script was brutal. But last 2 weeks, very productive stats, very heavy usage in the passing game as well. I really trust Jacobs right now. I think Jacobs is a very, very legit top 10 option, might be in the top 5 very soon. But if DeAndre Swift puts up a really productive game, gets in the end zone a couple times, then I think that's it. If DeAndre Swift doesn't score a touchdown, though, then I think it's going to keep this very, very even. But in terms of receiver matchups, we got A.J. Brown versus Devontae Adams. Definitely prefer A.J. Brown, but Adams could always pop off. The Patriots, though, know how to shut down number 1 receivers. And then we got Garrett Wilson versus Jalen Waddle. I do prefer Waddle, but not by a landslide. It's kind of just barely, kind of just more of like a trust factor in what he's been in the past. But this year he has kind of been brutal, a max of like 12 points. So I don't know if I really believe that Waddle is actually the better play. Wilson gets a bit of a break with no Darius Slay this week. Darius Slay is out with, I believe, a concussion. So Wilson should be solid. I think that's a very even matchup there, Wilson versus Waddle. But A.J. Brown should beat Devontae Adams. So overall, I am leaning towards Brown&Out so far. And then at tight end, I definitely prefer T.J. Hockenson over Evan Ingram. So Hockenson should be really good this week with no Justin Jefferson. He's going to see like at least 10 targets, if not like 15. Kirk Cousins is going to really send him a ton of looks this week. So that's definitely in his favor. But with no Zay Jones, maybe Evan Ingram bails you out with a touchdown. That could always be a factor. But then we have CeeDee Lamb versus Saquon Barkley. I don't think Saquon's going to play. And it's a Sunday night game. It's possible that GOAT mode gets stuck with Barkley putting up a bagel on Sunday night. So if I was GOAT mode, I would actually bench Saquon and insert Michael Pittman. I think it's much safer in terms of floor, and the upside is definitely there in a similar respect. Saquon has an extremely depleted offensive line in terms of their health, and I would really worry about his injury status not keeping him on the field. It's also Tyrod Taylor under center, so this Giants team is going to look like shit once again. Really unfortunate that they're in prime time this week. So CeeDee Lamb is who I would pick in this matchup straight up, but I really see a potential bagel for Saquon. So if you are GOAT mode, watch out. That could come to haunt you. I think I would rather just bank the safety net of Michael Pittman before he starts at noon and before he gets locked on your bench, because you can't really pivot to anyone else. You don't have a Monday night option. You don't have a Sunday night option. I would just go with Pittman. I would just play it safe. I don't trust Barkley to suit up this week. So that's what I would do, but it might sway this matchup if Barkley is locked into the lineup. And then the Eagles defense should definitely dominate the Jets. Prefer them over the Dolphins. And then Kaimi Fairbairn hopefully gets like 10 plus, but definitely won't put up as many points as Harrison Butker. So I think it's really just going to come down to Saquon. Like, that's the big question mark here. I think other than that, I definitely prefer Brown&Out's team on paper. I think at QB, you could definitely get way more points. And as long as DeAndre Swift doesn't go off for like a massive score, then I think I would actually choose Brown&Out. But the projection, the only difference in the projection is this big game by Harrison Butker. That's huge to get 17 points at kicker. Doesn't happen often. So that's what I'm expecting. I think if Pittman is inserted instead of Saquon, I might flip a coin and I might lean GOAT mode just barely. But it is very close. If Butker only put up like 10, I would definitely prefer Brown&Out. Unfortunate that Pacheco did not find the end zone. But let's get back to the comment section. If you can tell, I got a runny nose right now. I'm a bit sick, but it is what it is. And Terrell is asking PPR, Drake London or Breece Hall. Good question, bro. Damn. I hate the matchup for Breece this week, but the talent is definitely like through the roof. The talent should have you more confident, but yikes. I can't say I'm like really confident. Can't say I'm looking forward to Breece this week. I have him on my team, and I'm very much tempering expectations, but I also have Drake London on my team. So if I had this decision to make myself, I think I would stick with the floor of Breece Hall. There's much higher upside with Drake London. I think the matchup is truly one that you need to chase this season. So London has some really, really high upside, could easily score a touchdown and go over like 80 yards receiving. I think he's actually going to be really good this week. I have him at like number 27, 28, 29, something like that. Definitely with top 30 this week in my rankings. I'm upgrading London considerably. So I think if you're just chasing upside, give me London. But if you just want the floor, I would go Breece Hall. I doubt he finds the end zone, though. I think Breece will put up more yards straight up and catch like 2 or 3 passes, whereas London will probably catch like 5 or 6. So I don't think it's like a huge difference in terms of yards between the two. But I think from an upside standpoint, I think I'd probably go Drake London. Like if I was projected to lose or I just like really wanted to maximize my score, I think I'd go Drake London in a great matchup. Like we saw what DJ Moore could do against the Commanders last week. It's a home game. The Falcons always play really well at home. Ritter's starting to look better, and London is one of his favorite targets, not every week, but usually that's the case. And let's just take a look at his game log real quick. He's been 1 week without a touchdown, 1 week with a touchdown. So if that continues, then this is the week where he does find the end zone. And last week the floor was decent. Three of the last 3 games, 4 games, excuse me, he's gone over 10 points. So I think I would actually go London. I think I'd feel a little bit more optimistic that he could possibly hit like 20 points. I think the ceiling is higher with London. Give me Drake London in full PPR over Brees Hall. Yeah, I was estimating for like half PPR. I don't know why, but in full PPR, I usually favor the wide receiver, and I'm downgrading Brees this week against the Eagles. Give me Drake London over Brees Hall. It feels weird to say, but yeah, that's what I'm gonna do. I just don't trust the ceiling with Brees. He's very touchdown dependent, and I think London might have a better chance to find the end zone. So give me Drake London over Brees Hall. But David is asking me to rate my fantasy team name. They, them, hate me. It's okay. Are you like non-binary? Is that why? Maybe there's like something players on your team that have to do with that. I think it's okay. It's not my favorite. It's not like it's like the I'd give it like a B minus. It's okay. Sorry if I'm like disappointing, but yeah, it's fine. I don't totally get it. I don't fully understand the joke, but maybe sometimes shit just flies over my head. Like sometimes no, I'm not. It's sarcastic. I feel like you may have taken offense to that assumption. Sorry. It's okay. Yeah, it's a decent team name. I like to either like the it's an homage to He Hate Me. Okay, gotcha. Gotcha. Actually, I don't know if I even know that reference. But you know, if you know what it is, if it makes you laugh, then that's all that matters, bro. Like that's all that matters. They're not showing my like my logo, but I have a picture of Ricky Williams smoking a J, and it's 4th and 20, as if it's fourth down and 20 yards to go. And this league is nice and blunt. The nice and blunt league. It's got a weed theme to it, so it's very fitting for this league. But my favorite team name this year, I have two, so I guess I don't have like a ton. But I got Bijan on my team, and my team name is Grey Poupon Bijan. Um, Here, let me right there. Grey Poupon Bijan. I was hiding it for a second. So yeah, if it makes you laugh, that's all that matters, bro. Google XFL He Hate Me. Okay, I'm gonna have to do that. I will do that right now. I assume. Oh, there's actually a player named the origin of how Rod Smart became He Hate Me of the XFL. Okay. Okay, now I get it. I like it. I like it. No, own the hate. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna upgrade that to an A. Yeah, that's a good name. It's just a little bit nuanced. I don't know any fucking like XFL. That's why I'm like, what does this mean? But thank you for shedding some light on that. I appreciate it. Uh, that made me laugh. Yeah, it's a good name. Yeah, I can just imagine how some people are like, I don't know what that means. Like I did a few minutes ago. But thanks for clarifying. I appreciate it. If he doesn't know XFL, he's too young for you. Yeah, I just don't really follow the XFL to be completely honest. But Akshay Shah, Akshay is asking, just made this trade, gave away Saquon, Brian Robinson, got Brees Hall, Amari Cooper, Damian Pierce. Thoughts? Woo! Not bad, my friend. Not a bad trade at all. Saquon with that high ankle sprain is a bit concerning at the moment. Definitely a little bit risky. I definitely prefer Brees Hall, at least in the short term. Hopefully Saquon's back soon, but their offense looks bad. So I don't think that's like a big gap. And then Brian Robinson versus Amari Cooper and Damian Pierce. At some point, Deshaun Watson should return. So I think getting Cooper and Pierce is good value. And I think while this week is not ideal for Brees, he does have a bye in week 7. Saquon isn't past his bye. So, you're just trading buys. Saquon has a bye in like week 13. So that could be like really critical for you. But I'm going to pull up Brees Hall's schedule real quick. Because I love his fantasy schedule. Brees Hall has like really good matchups. I think Brees Hall could legitimately be a top 10 running back following the bye. Like he gets the Giants, who have been like top 5 in week 8. Then he gets the Chargers, who have historically been terrible against the run. A little bit better this year, but still historically bad. The Raiders don't scare you at all against the run. Gets a matchup against Buffalo, not the best, but we saw Etienne have a good game against them recently, so talent can always win out. Then he gets 2 games against Miami. Miami's not that great against the run themselves. Atlanta knows how to stop the run, but then Houston week 14, really good matchup. The Commanders in week 16, and then Cleveland week 17. That Cleveland game week 17 is not good, but other than that, it's really a very plus type of schedule. I think Brees Hall will be really productive and maybe not top 10, but I had him number 12 coming into the season. I think that's where he's going to continue to rank week in, week out, starting in week 8. I think he's going to have some really legit upside. So Saquon is probably not going to be the same player with this ankle sprain. So I don't think it's bad. And then getting Cooper, I think, makes up any disparity between B-Rob and Damian Pierce. While I don't love Damian Pierce, I think Cooper should be better. And definitely the combo of Brees Hall, Amari Cooper would be like not that far off from getting Saquon, B-Rob straight up. So I like the trade. I think it's reasonably fair for both sides. But I think you made up pretty well. I think it's not bad at all. I would probably have made it myself, especially if you need a win this week and Saquon concerns you like he concerns me. But also made this trade. Sorry, I'm hearing something like now it stopped, but sorry, there's something going on. Akshay made this trade, gave DeMercado and Pittman, got Flowers. I already have Lamar. You only got Flowers? I would much rather have Pittman straight up than Flowers, my friend. Like I don't love that trade, to be honest with you. Pittman, I know he has had a bad couple games, but I don't know if the stack with Lamar is really that important. Flowers isn't scoring touchdowns. He has a decent floor, but I think Pittman offers the same floor. Should return to double-digit targets, especially with Minshew under center. They're going to throw it a lot. I prefer the Pittman side of this trade, going to be honest with you. I think you may have pulled the trigger a little too quickly on giving up Pittman for Flowers, but then also made this trade, gave Laporta and Amari Cooper, got Hawkinson and Josh Downs. Not terrible. Hawkinson is going to look elite the next few weeks, so that's pretty good. And then Cooper, if Deshaun stays out, I know I was high on him in that previous trade, but it's not terrible. Laporte is a little banged up right now. So Hawkinson is the best player on the board here, and that means in a way you do win the trade. So yeah, it's a decent one. I think it's fine. And then also asking me to start one running back, one flex this week. Brees, Hubbard, Foreman, Flowers, Josh Downs. Okay. At running back, we are starting Brees Hall. And then at flex, I'm starting Chuba Hubbard. If it's full PPR, I would go with Zay Flowers, but because Chuba Hubbard has this backfield all to himself, I think it's a decent matchup. The Panthers play. Who do they play this week? I think the Panthers have Miami. Yeah, the Panthers have Miami. Not a bad matchup at all. Should see some targets as well. I would start Brees and Hubbard. I don't love Zay Flowers' upside, to be honest with you. I think the floor is fine. If it's full PPR, I would go with Flowers and then Josh Downs. A little hard to trust unless it's full PPR as well, but the upside's a bit capped, in my opinion. So give me the two running backs. I'm going to go Brees and Hubbard. I don't love it, but I have them both top 21. I have the wide receivers outside my top 30. I might go Zay Flowers over Chuba Hubbard. That one's the real toss up. I might go Brees and Flowers. I think it's dependent on your scoring format. Yeah, actually, I'm gonna go Brees and Flowers. Flowers is a bit safer than Hubbard. Hubbard's very touchdown dependent. But okay, I'm gonna answer this question by Akshay, and then I'm gonna get back to the subscriber league real quick. I promise you I will answer every question. Just gonna have to take a break. I've been answering a lot of questions in the chat. And there's also another thing I'm doing in this live stream. So rate this team, 10-team PPR, Lamar, Hall, Kyron Williams, CeeDee Lamb, Puka, Hawkinson, Flowers. I have Watson, Dameon Pierce, Foreman, Roshan, and Josh Downs on the bench. 1-4 right now, so need some wins. I think you will pick up some steam. Unfortunately, Brees Hall has a bye next week, so that's unfortunate. But I think if you can trade CeeDee Lamb after a big game this week, I would do it. You did get Hawkinson, so don't let go of him. He's going to really help you for a while. Kyron should have a really good game this week. Puka's going to be really good rest of season. Don't give away Puka. But if you can trade away CeeDee Lamb and one of the Chicago Bears running backs, or maybe Dameon Pierce, I think I would do it, try and get some long-term value as a better wide receiver. I think you need a better receiver than CeeDee Lamb. I think that would be what I would try and target. It's a decent roster, but I can see how it is 1-4 given the trades that you made. I think it will look a lot better than that 1-4 record suggests moving forward, especially once Brees Hall has passed his bye in week 7. So I'd say it's like a B. I think it's closer to like a 500 team rest of season, and hopefully you get some luck and pick up some steam. But as I mentioned, I'm going to hold off on the comments real quick and just get to the subscriber league once again. We are almost done. We are almost done with the previews, but we have 2 more, and just want to get to it while I can. We have LaSalle difference versus Tyler Higbeast, and a very close, tight projection of 113 to 112. So let's see what the matchups entail. We got Stafford versus Geno. That one's close. I think they're both top 15, but neither are top 10. I think I'd favor Geno just a little bit, but I think the matchup is really good for Stafford. Wouldn't shock me if Stafford had a better game. There's a 300-yard bonus in this league too, so Stafford could easily hit that, easily get that extra 3 points if it happens. But Ramondre versus Jonathan Taylor, yikes, that is brutal. Not ideal at all. I think I prefer Taylor, but that could really bite me in the ass for saying that. We haven't seen Taylor be productive yet, and that time split with Zach Moss does worry me. But Ramondre has just looked so bad this year. Can't trust him in any regard. I think I prefer Jonathan Taylor, who I think was better last week, straight up. I think, Ramondre had 2.4. Taylor had 3.9. Yeah, Taylor was better last week, despite only 10 snaps. So Taylor would be my preference this week. I think he'll be better. But then we got Chuba Hubbard versus Madison. That's an even matchup there. That's a wash. I think I prefer Madison, but just barely. And then we got Ridley versus Keenan. I would go with Keenan, but Ridley could easily have a great game. And then we have Tyreek Hill versus Jacoby Myers. I obviously am going with Tyreek Hill. This team is looking pretty stacked. This 2-3 record suggests otherwise. But this team has some good receivers for sure. But Jacoby's been really good, really underrated. Going to put up some good numbers this week in a revenge game against the Patriots. But Waller versus Higbee. I have Higbee ranked so low, so I prefer Waller, but Waller scares me a little bit. Tyrod Taylor might not get him the ball super efficiently, so we'll see about that, but Waller should get the win there. And then we got Puka versus Zay Flowers. Puka's definitely the better option, so I would go Puka. The Chiefs defense with 19 points, very good game from them versus the Saints at Houston. Chiefs definitely going to beat them by at least 5+ points, maybe 10+, and then Daniel Carlson versus Tyler Bass. I would go with Tyler Higbeast. I think Higbeast is actually going to win, despite the LaSalle difference having Keenan Allen and Tyreek Hill on the roster. Just the running back situation is brutal. That scares me for sure. But the receiver depth is solid, and if Taylor has a good game, I think that's going to be the difference. I would go with Higbeast as my favorite. Let me know what you think in the comments section. Are there any players on the bench that I would insert? I doubt it. I don't think so. Don't trust Lockett. Burrow, I would start Joe Burrow over Stafford, actually. That's what I would do. I think that would swing it in favor of LaSalle. But this team can do what they want. Don't blame them. It's a great matchup for Stafford. Burrow only has one game of production. But very banged up bench for Higbeast, the reigning champion of last year's subscriber league. So far 3-2. I think they win. It's going to be very close, though, but I think they win. I think Keenan could maybe be held in check, just barely. But Stevenson in the starting lineup is tough. I would go Zach Moss over Stevenson. I'd even go Deontay Foreman over Stevenson. Wow. Really, really hard to trust Stevenson right now. Surprised that they're doing it. Yeah, I would go Zach Moss over Stevenson. Holy shit. Yeah, I would swap Joe Burrow and Zach Moss at QB and running back, and I think that would be what favors this team to win, in my opinion. Stevenson is really holding this team back, in my view. But that's just me. Maybe I'm wrong. We will see. We will find out. But back to the comments, as I promised you I would. Ricardo is asking Hubbard or Hollywood flex in full PPR. I'm going to go Hollywood. I would still go with Marquise Brown. I got Marquise at number 29 this week, and I got Hubbard at number 21. But in full PPR, usually always favor the wide receiver. And with no James Conner, there should be more garbage time. It's not the best matchup for Marquise, but I think he'll be okay. I think he'll get some good enough volume. I think he definitely goes over 10 points. Even without a touchdown, I trust his floor, whereas Hubbard is really touchdown dependent. And the matchup against Miami is just average. I don't think he'll be like elite. Really needs that touchdown to go off. If he doesn't get it, I think Hollywood will be much, much safer. I would go Hollywood Brown over Chuba Hubbard in full PPR. But Tyler Sperry is asking Logan Thomas or Evan Ingram. And that's a good question. But with no Zay Jones, I think you can really trust Evan Ingram. He'd been really productive without Zay Jones on the field. And there's some high chances for him to score in this matchup. Actually, there's not. I take that back. I was looking at the wrong stat. There's been 0 tight end touchdowns by the Colts given up this season. So not the best spot for him, but in terms of floor, they do give up 6 catches for 60 yards to the position. So I think Ingram has a really safe floor, whereas Logan Thomas does have a great matchup, but is really touchdown dependent. I think he kind of falls back down a little bit to earth. I have Ingram at 7 and Thomas at 9. I think it's a very legit question, but I would roll with Ingram because there's no Zay Jones. I think it's a little bit safer. Ingram has a longer track record of success, and Thomas will probably look a little closer to like that 3 for 40 line that he was putting up before last week. I would rather go Evan Ingram. Maybe because it's just the name value, but I think I just trust him a little bit more. With no Zay Jones, he should be very involved. So give me Evan Ingram over Logan Thomas. But Warrior Loft is asking Cowboys defense versus Chargers or Ravens defense versus the Titans. That's a good question. I actually just swapped the two in my rankings. I had them both back to back, and now I prefer the Ravens at Tennessee. I think the Titans traveling to London are going to look kind of brutal. The Ravens coming off a rough loss last week should be very sharp, should be productive. And their defense is much healthier. So I think the Ravens are the start, in my opinion. The Cowboys, while they are talented, have a terrible matchup, and Kellen Moore is going to know some of their weaknesses. So I would go with the Ravens. As long as the Cowboys pass rush doesn't shut down Justin Herbert all game long, I don't think that'll happen. I think the Ravens are much safer, have an equally high ceiling, but a much higher floor. I'm going to go the Ravens versus the Titans in London over the Cowboys. Make sure you set your lineup tonight because you may not wake up in time to get it done in the morning, especially if you're on the West Coast. That game starts really early. So give me the Ravens over the Cowboys, but just barely. Just barely. I got them at 5 and number 6. So if you disagree, I understand, but I would go with the Ravens. But Tyler Sperry is asking start Pittman or Gabe Davis. I think Pittman bounces back. I know the last 2 weeks have been brutal, but I think that target volume is going to look closer to double digits with Gardner Minshew under center. That's what it was in week 3 against Baltimore. So I trust the floor with Pittman, whereas Davis is very interesting, but is so touchdown dependent. He either gets the touchdown or doesn't. And I know he scored in 4 straight games, but I find it a little bit hard to like fully guarantee you that it's going to happen. I have Pittman at 19 and Gabe Davis at 24. So I prefer Pittman. It's a top 10 matchup for him, whereas Gabe Davis just has an average matchup. And I think their touchdown odds probably favor Davis a little bit, but without it, I think from a yards and catch standpoint, Pittman will be the better play. I'm going to go Pittman over Gabe Davis. But Warrior Loft is asking Deontay Foreman versus Vikings or Chuba Hubbard versus the Dolphins. I'm going to go Chuba Hubbard versus the Dolphins because he has been somewhat productive in their offense so far, whereas Deontay we haven't seen at all with the Bears. He was a healthy scratch last week, so I don't know how much they actually trust him, and I don't know how many touches he's actually going to get. So even though the matchup isn't bad against the Vikings, I just prefer going with a player that we've actually seen on the field this season and go with Chuba Hubbard. I got Chuba at 21. I got Foreman at 25. It is close. It's both average matchups, so no big upgrade for either. But I prefer Hubbard. I think he's going to get more volume, and especially if you're in like more of a PPR format, he's going to be in catch-up mode, catch a lot of check downs in the second half. I can't say that's what you can expect with Foreman at all. So I'm going to go Chuba Hubbard versus Miami in that spot. I prefer him over Foreman. But Tyler is also asking, start Logan Thomas or Ingram. I just answered that question with for you, Tyler. So I would go Ingram. Went kind of in depth on that question. I have them close in the rankings, but I prefer Ingram and his proven track record. Thomas has a good matchup, but I still think Ingram is a safer bet, especially with no Zay Jones. But Jolt in shock is asking, did I win this trade? Traded Saquon, Godwin, and Ingram for Jettas and Ferguson. I still have Pollard, Kyren Williams, Kamara at running back, Keenan, Puka, Myers at wide receiver, Laporta at tight end. I think you did. While I do prefer Ingram over Ferguson, obviously JJ is elite, and I think you have the receiving core to wait it out. So as long as you weren't like 1-4, if you were like, let's say 3-2, 4-1, or obviously 5-0, you can 100% wait out Jetta's injury, and he should be back in about 5 weeks. So I think that was a good move. I like it. I think having Laporta at tight end means Ferguson isn't someone you trust at all and are counting on in any way, shape, or form. So, yeah, I think that's a good spot, man. Maybe Saquon comes back next week, but Godwin is never getting your lineup, and Ingram probably not going to make your lineup much at all either. So, Saquon for Jetta is kind of the trade you're making. Definitely give me Justin Jefferson. I like the trade a lot. I think you did win. Good for you. But Tyler is asking start Stafford versus or Burrow. As I was mentioning in that in this subscriber league matchup right here on the screen, I think that this team should be benching Stafford for Joe Burrow. And the difference in rankings isn't like tremendous. I have Stafford at 14, Burrow at 8, but it is significant enough for me to trust Burrow a lot more. He looked like he's back to himself last week, and he gets Higgins back on the field too. I think he'll be legit. I think they both go over 300 yards passing, but I think from a touchdown standpoint, Kyren Williams makes me worried about Stafford, and that's why I much more prefer Burrow over Stafford. Give me Joe Burrow in that spot. But is asking trade McCaffrey and Evans for Diggs and Etienne full PPR. Nope, not going to do it, bro. Nah. I do not want the Diggs and Etienne side. You have the number one running back, and in full PPR, he's unmovable. No matter what, I don't think you want to get rid of CMC. I know Etienne has been really good. You're trading like really solid options, but Evans has been so productive, like 18 plus points whenever healthy this season. I don't think that gap between him and Diggs is worth moving off of McCaffrey. I'm sticking with McCaffrey and Evans. I'm going to stick with the good karma and not regret giving up the number one player in fantasy this year. Give me McCaffrey and Evans in this trade. I want that side, not moving off of them. But Bronson Howe is asking trade JT, T-Law, and Addison for Lamb, Pierce, and Goddard. Okay, JT, T-Law, and Addison for Lamb, Pierce, and Goddard. I don't think so. I mean, maybe your tight end situation is just fucking brutal, and maybe your quarterback situation is so good that you don't need T-Law. But I got to be honest with you. Addison versus Lamb the next month, I think I prefer Addison. I think at the very least it's really close. I think they're both top 20, but Addison is probably going to see more consistent targets. It's been brutal in that Cowboys offense. This week it's a good matchup, but I still don't really trust Lamb right now. And then Pierce has looked like shit. So I think Taylor has way higher upside. I'd much rather keep Taylor. And then trading a quarterback for a tight end is not ideal. I know Goddard had a great game last week. He has a great matchup this week. It might not look right after this game, but Goddard looked like shit the first 4 weeks of the season. Goddard was brutal, bro. So I don't trust it, man. I just rather stick with the upside with Addison the next month, and then the potential that Jonathan Taylor reclaims that top 10 status at running back. Yeah, I don't feel confident in Lamb right now. If anything, I'd be wanting to move off of Lamb. Pierce is not a player that helps you at all, really. And then Goddard for T-Law, I don't think I'd do it. I think you can probably find a viable tight end as a backup. Like even if you have like Logan Thomas, I don't think that's a big downgrade from Goddard. I'd rather stick with T-Law as a legit backup QB. So no, I'm sticking with JT, T-Law, and Addison. That's the side of the trade that I want. I think you're losing it if you give them up. But um, you don't need T-Law. You have Stafford, Purdy, and Geno in a 2 QB league. Need a tight end and getting an upgraded wide receiver and taking a downgrade at running back. I don't mind. I do, bro. I know it's like, yeah, you have some decent quarterbacks, but like other than Purdy, they're not like amazing. Like they're top 15, yeah, but like they're not like elite. So I don't think it's like I guess if you really need a tight end, you can kind of justify it, but I just wouldn't want to give up Addison right now. I wouldn't. I don't want Lamb. I think that's really risky. And if you exclude JT for Pierce, it's like a fair trade. I don't think it's like that big of a difference. But once you include JT for Pierce, like then I feel like that's where you're losing it. I know you probably can't use him this week. You kind of got to wait for him, but I think long term you're going to be happier with the JT Addison T-Law side. That's my gut. That's what I'm thinking. Maybe I'm biased because I have Addison. I was really high on T-Law entering the season, but Lamb worries me. Lamb worries me a lot. I also have Goddard on my team, and last week felt like a bit more of a fluke and like random occurrence than something to trust. This week should be good and a good matchup, but I don't think it's going to be that good moving forward. Goddard scares me a little bit. So do what you want. I don't think it's like an egregious trade, but I think I'd rather stay put. I think I'd rather keep who you got already. But having 4 quarterbacks in a 2 QB league, yeah, it's not like I would consider trading just T-Law for Goddard straight up. I think that's what I would be trying to do. Like, I don't think the other part of that trade is worth it. That's my opinion. That's what I would do. But David H. Rolex saying, hey, I'm new here. Is it okay to ask questions? Of course it is, bro. Hopefully we'll see you down below. I got to catch up a little bit. But Kyrus saying LOL. I'm not totally sure about what, but dope. And then the private pile. Oh, I love Full Metal Jacket. Good reference. But what happened? What's happening? Seattle or Rams defense also start 2 PPR, Flowers, Kirk, Ayuk. Thank you. Seattle or the Rams defense? I'm not going to trust the Seahawks versus the Bengals. I'm going to go Rams versus Arizona. With no James Conner, that offense should struggle. I'm going to go Rams defense. I got them top 10. I got Seattle number 21. So, yeah, give me Rams for sure. And then start 2 in full PPR. Flowers, Kirk, Ayuk. Thank you. I'm definitely starting Ayuk. He's been really consistent. I know last week was a bit of a dud, but Kittle isn't going to dominate every single week like he did. Ayuk should be fine. Should be back to a top 15 option very soon. I got him top 14 this week. And then Kirk with no Zay Jones gets a big upgrade. I got him top 20 this week. Definitely trust Christian Kirk, Brandon Ayuk. I'm benching Flowers in that spot. So give me the Rams over the Seahawks at defense, and then give me Christian Kirk and Brandon Ayuk at wide receiver. But Kyrus is asking, I just need one more for flex in PPR, but all these guys look the same. All floor plays. Thanks for the recommendation. James Cook, DeAndre Hopkins, Deebo Samuel, T. Higgins. Ooh. Yeah, in full PPR, James Cook loses some of his upside for sure. I worry about the matchup for Deebo because he's been much more of just a running back lately. That rib injury is a bit concerning, but he should be healthy. I think his floor is definitely, as you're saying, like a legit floor play. But I think from an upside standpoint, I think in full PPR, I'm going to go T. Higgins. I know he has a very risky floor there. Has been a bit brutal sometimes, but yeah, I think I'd go T. Higgins. I do have James Cook ranked top 20. I have James Cook at what is it? 14. So I think Cook is actually pretty solid. The matchup is top 3. The Giants are giving up 150 rushing yards per game, 5.5 yards per carry, and 8 rushing touchdowns this season to running backs. So Cook actually is a very legit play. Okay, because it's full PPR, that's the only reason I would not start Cook. So I think if you just want the floor, if you just want like 12 points, 13 points, go James Cook. I think he's the safest play here for sure. I think he's going to be fine. Last week, I'm not reading into. He's been really consistent this season. And while the touchdowns haven't hit, the matchup suggests that he will find the end zone in this game. So I have him top 15. I think I trust his floor the most of these 4 that you're mentioning as floor plays. But T. Higgins, I think, has the ceiling because he also has a really good matchup. The Seahawks are giving up 39 points per game in half PPR to wide receivers. So that goes up tremendously in full PPR, and it's a really good matchup for Higgins. I know he's been very up and down. So that's where like the floor is much lower. There is a bit more risk with Higgins. So if you just want to play it safe, go with James Cook. But I have T. Higgins ranked as the highest wide receiver this week at number 23. I have Deebo at number 26. And then I have Hopkins at number 32. So if it wasn't full PPR, I would be going James Cook 100%. But because it is full PPR, I think you can legitimately consider T. Higgins. I think he's just super touchdown dependent, and it's not a guarantee that happens. So it's up to you. If you prefer Higgins tremendously over James Cook, then do it. Trust your gut, my friend. But I think if I was just trying to play it safe, I'd go James Cook. That would be my call. So it's a good matchup for both Cook and Higgins. Bad matchup for Deebo, and a very average matchup for Hopkins. I'm definitely benching D-Hop, benching Deebo Samuel. And for the ceiling, I think I'd go T. Higgins. For the floor, I'd go James Cook. But Warrior Loft is asking, I haven't seen your pick'ems for week 6. Who wins, Lions or Bucks? I'm taking the Lions. Rams versus Cardinals, I'm definitely taking the Rams. They have won 10 out of the last 12 games over Arizona. And then Eagles versus Jets. I know the Eagles defense is very banged up, but I do not trust Zach Wilson in that offense. Breece Hall going to be held in check against the Eagles. Give me Philly to remain undefeated over the New York Jets. You can find my full pick'ems on my channel. You can head over there. It's the week 6 win-loss picks for this week. So, yeah, give me the Lions over the Bucks, the Rams over the Cardinals, and the Eagles over the Jets. But thanks for all the emojis. I see all those hearts flying and the hundreds. Let's go. David H. Rolex asking, need 2 half PPR? James Cook, DeAndre Hopkins, Terry McLaurin, Jacoby Myers, Brian Robinson Jr. Thank you. Okay. 2.5 PPR. As I mentioned with James Cook in elite matchup, I'm definitely starting James Cook. I'm benching Hopkins. I'm benching McLaurin. and I'm benching Brian Robinson, I'm starting Jacoby Myers. Jacoby Myers has been so fucking good. 10 plus targets per game in the 3 with Jimmy Garoppolo. The matchup is average, but if one thing that the Patriots can do, it's shut down number 1 wide receivers. So Adams might look a little bit average like he did last week, and Myers has been so productive, so consistent, a real big part of that offense. I think you want Jacoby Myers and James Cook. That's who I'm sticking with. Jacoby is averaging 18 points per game, 17.8 to be specific, with in his 3 healthy starts with Jimmy G. So give me Jacoby Myers and James Cook, as I just went in depth on the matchup for Cook. Is elite, very high chance he scores a touchdown against the New York Giants. But Lucas is asking Waddle, Pittman, or Gabe Davis for flex, full PPR. Before I answer that question, let me just remind you, if I've answered your question, hit that like button for me. We have 17 watchers, 11 likes, so boost that number for me. If you're new to the channel, please subscribe. Let me get the picture for it. Yeah, please subscribe if you haven't already. Really helps this channel grow, and I really appreciate it. That like button helps spread this video in the algorithm on the recommended page, really helps out the channel a lot. So hit that like button, subscribe, do me a favor. Really, really appreciate it. But that's it for the little plug here. I'll move the subscribe button away, but actually, fuck it. I'll leave it up. Fuck it. As one of our chat members was saying earlier, F it is the motto. David R3. Fuck it. Okay. Okay, we got a bunch of questions. I'm going to answer 3 more questions. Then I'm going to get back to the Subscriber League preview because I am supposed to be doing that, and there's only 1 left. And then after that, it's just questions, I promise you. But Lucas, time for your question. Waddle, Pittman, or Gabe Davis for flex? Damn, that's really close, actually. That's a good one, bro. I have Pittman ranked the highest. I think Pittman's going to bounce back. I know he's been bad the last 2 weeks. It's been a little bit rough to trust. I get it. Not the best spot. But Davis is just so touchdown dependent. He has the highest ceiling, but he has the lower floor for sure without the touchdown. Like last week, he didn't do shit until garbage time at the end of the 4th quarter. He barely did anything previously in the game. Then he had 1 big, deep touchdown to close it out. So I don't really trust Gabe Davis as much. Waddle had a better game last week, but I think Pittman's going to see the most targets, and in full PPR, I trust the floor, I think the highest. Pittman should bounce back. He had a really good game against the Jags week 1, and I believe it is a top 10 matchup. Yes, the Jags are a top 10 matchup against wide receivers, giving up 6 touchdowns to the position, 31 points per game. I think Pittman is who I would go with. I think he'll get back to about 10 targets per game. With Gardner Minshew under center, even though the last 2 weeks were a little brutal. But Ilias Giftopoulos is asking Tua or Fields, also full PPR, pick 1, Kyron, Godwin, Olave. I'm going to go Justin Fields. I love the matchup for Fields. The Vikings, really plus matchup for quarterbacks this season, whereas the Panthers are not. And I think Fields flashed that elite upside. He's been really good last 2 games. I'm going to go Justin Fields over Tua Tagovailoa. But then in full PPR, pick 1, Kyron, Godwin, Olave. It's between Kyron and Olave, but I have Kyron Williams ranked top 10 this week. I have him at number 10 because it's a top 5 matchup. The Cardinals give up 25 points per game in half PPR, and I think Kyron Williams is likely to score a touchdown, at least 1, whereas Olave scares me right now. He has a really bad last 2 games. Oh, the battery went out. Give me 1 second. 1 moment. I'll be back in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There we are. All right. Yeah, give me Kyron Williams in that spot. I think the floor is just so safe. He's top 10 this week. I love Kyron Williams as an automatic start this week. Olave is a little bit risky at the moment. A little bit risky. Godwin, I don't trust against Detroit with Evans fully healthy. But then last question before I finish up the Subscriber League preview. I promise I'll be back. very soon to answer all the questions. I will get to every question. I do make that promise. But Akshay is asking, trade Puka for Ayuk and Collins. Addison, same team as before. Maybe. Um, so it's a toss up between Collins and Addison plus Ayuk. I might do it, but maybe not. I don't know. That's a tough one there. I know you're getting more players, but I think Puka's a little bit more consistent every week, and I think it's in full PPR too. So I might not do it. It's tough. I'd probably go with Ayuk and Addison. That would be my preference. Yeah, I think I'd go Ayuk and Addison over Puka. That would be my pick. But I promise you, I will get to all the questions in just a minute. We'll go rapid fire right after I get back to the subscriber league final matchup of the week. We have Internally Screaming versus Hurts Different, and we'll just go through the matchups. We got Josh Allen versus Jalen Hurts. Oh wow, the projection is within half a point. Interesting, but I'm going to go Josh Allen just barely. I think they will bounce back after a loss in prime time for sure, whereas the Jets defense scares me a little bit more than the Giants. So a little bit of an edge to Internally Screaming. But then Raheem Mostert versus Eckler, definitely going to go Eckler, although Mostert is top 10 this week. And then we got Gus Edwards versus Jeff Wilson Jr. So this team really needs to swap out Jeff Wilson Jr. for another running back. They have terrible options. They have Kelly and Algier. Fuck. That's bad. I think I'd go Algier. I don't think I want both of the Chargers running backs against Dallas. Jeff Wilson's not going to play. He's doubtful. But at the moment, Gus Edwards would win in that matchup straight up against all of them. So that's weird. But yeah, elite RB1s, terrible RB2s. But then Christian Kirk versus DK Metcalf, really close. I do prefer Metcalf just barely because I think there's higher touchdown upside. But boy, is that close. Really, really close. I have them back-to-back at 19-20. Evans versus T. Higgins, definitely prefer Mike Evans. But then Schultz versus Travis Kelce. Kelce went off 9 for 124, 20 points on the scoreboard. So definitely Kelce, that's for sure. He makes up the ground lost at running back. But then Tutu versus Michael Thomas, brutal flex plays. I would change Gabe Davis in the flex. I don't know why he's going Michael Thomas. Whoa, that's weird. Thomas has no upside at all. He gets you like 7 points, but nothing more. I would not be starting Michael Thomas. Whereas Tutu, I think I'd prefer Curtis Samuel over Tutu. But I know this team is a Rams fan. They're probably going to stick with their preference there. And then we get the Lions defense at Tampa Bay, Falcons versus Washington. Boy, that's a toss-up. I can see why this matchup is projected to be even. But I hope that Internally Screaming wins. I do not want to see Hurts Different go 5-1. I want to see Internally Screaming get back in the mix at 2-4. So I hope they win, but hopefully the bagel from Jeff Wilson helps a lot. You're not going to get a ton from Algier or Kelly if they swap it. So hopefully Internally Screaming wins, but that's really close call here. I'm going to go with Internally Screaming. But as I mentioned, we're back to the questions. I didn't promise you that wasn't going to take too long, and we will just run through these questions the rest of the video. But J Tech is here for Malik Cunningham. Good luck there. I mean, I think Bailey Zappi would be a better option, but maybe Cunningham will get some touches at the running back or like in some wildcat formations. That'd be interesting to see. The Patriots just got to take a shot, just try and do something. But Bronson is asking, what about JT for Aaron Jones and Kittle or DK? In that spot, yeah, I would do it. I would like to have Kittle and Aaron Jones for sure over JT. I think that's a very, very good trade to make, especially if you need tight end. 100%, give me Kittle and Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones should be decent. I am a little bit worried about his injury, but he's on bye this week, so he should be okay. I think he'll be top 15 rest of season, but that hammy might flare up. He is a bit old. That is a concern. So with Kittle, though, I think that's fair. I think I would do it if you need tight end, as you were mentioning. But Akshay is saying, I traded B-Rob, Hopkins, and Tank Dell for Kyron Williams and Roshan Johnson. Win or loss? At running back, you really upgraded moving on to Kyron Williams. So that's pretty good. If you need more running backs, then I don't think Hopkins is that valuable. Tank Dell is also not that valuable week to week. So Roshan has some upside after this concussion subsides. He should be the running back to own in the Bears offense. So if what you needed was running back depth, you definitely won the trade. That is for sure. Just having Kyron Williams is the best player on the list here. I think that wins the trade, bro. So good job there. But Kairos 17, only 11 likes. Sus. Thanks again for insight. Have a good evening. Appreciate you, bro. You're welcome. But Jacob is saying Hopkins or Myers. I am going Myers 100%. That's not, I know I said, but that's actually not anywhere near as questionable as that would have suggested. Myers has just been so good with Jimmy Garoppolo, 10 plus targets in those 3 games when he's been healthy and the concussions aren't a factor. Jacoby Myers, way, way safer. 100%. Give me Jacoby Myers over D-Hop. But Warrior Loft is asking, I'm in a 10-man league, half PPR. If you really need to win this week and Justice Hill is your worst player, would you drop him for a kicker? What is your outlook on Justice Hill? Hill is just so touchdown dependent, and that committee with Gus Edwards is very, very even. While Hill catches some passes, I think Gus Edwards is actually like the more solid, consistent option. I don't feel great about it, but I don't think I'm ever going to rank Justice Hill top 30. So he's like really hard to trust, and it's a 10-team league. I don't think you need to have him. I think if like you don't have a kicker right now and you need to start one, I think I would consider dropping Justice Hill. What I'd probably do is I'd wait until Sunday morning, and that way when you drop him, he immediately goes to waivers, and no one can pick him up until next waiver transaction. So if you really want him back, you can get him. But if you need a kicker, if you don't have one, yeah, I think Justice Hill is droppable. You don't need him in a 10-team league. It's pretty it's usually pretty solid on the waiver wire, and then running backs get hurt. You can probably find a decent option next week. If not, just pivot back to him at the very worst. But Jacob, thank you for liking and subscribing. I really appreciate it. If you have not and you're watching and I've answered your question, please hit that like button. Please subscribe. Help this channel grow. Really appreciate it. But Warrior Loft, in fact, would you rather have Hill or Spears? I'd much rather have Tyjae Spears than Justice Hill. 100%, bro. Tyjae Spears is probably one of the most valuable handcuff running backs you can have. Just keep in mind, Tyjae will be on bye next week, so that is a little bit risky. You're going to get a bagel from Tyjae next week. If you need him, he can't give you anything in week 7, but rest of season, he could. I think he's more valuable than Justice Hill, straight up. 100%. Especially if Derrick Henry goes down. He's top 15, maybe even top 12, top 10 in that instance. So give me Tyjae Spears over Justice Hill for sure. But David, I sub for the Midwest accent. I mean, maybe it's my clogged nose at the moment. I'm actually from California, but I do live in the Midwest at the moment. I did move to Minnesota, so appreciate you, bro. And F it. Yeah, F it. Sometimes you just got to say F it. But would you trade Goff? Wait, would you trade off GW for Coop and Pittman? Is GW Garrett Wilson? I have DK, Hollywood, and Myers as my other wide receivers. You're getting Cooper Kupp and Michael Pittman? Yeah, 100%. Maybe I'm reading this incorrectly. Cam Daddy, please clarify if I am incorrect. But my understanding is you're asking if I would trade Garrett Wilson for Cooper, Kupp, and Pittman. Yeah, 100%. Who the fuck would trade you Cooper Kupp and Pittman for Garrett Wilson? Like, I feel like I'm wrong. Is Coop somebody else? Definitely give me Coop and Pittman over GW. Yeah. Yeah, you have good receivers. You can get rid of Garrett Wilson. Maybe I'm just reading that completely wrong. It's somebody else. But yeah, please clarify in the comments. But Bobby Smorda, in a dynasty full PPR, what type of value would I be getting for Debo or King Henry? In dynasty, the value on Henry is really low. You definitely get more value with trading away Debo. That is for sure. Um, I would assume for Henry, you could probably get like. Sorry, I'm thinking. No, not even like Rashad White, because Rashad White's really young. Um, Damn, let me look at the rankings. I have to think about that. I feel like for Derrick Henry, maybe you could get Jerome Ford. uh, Because, like, what are you getting from Henry next year? You know what I mean? Like, it wouldn't shock me if this is Derrick Henry's last season. They drafted Spears in the third round, and I would be very worried. I don't think you're going to get a lot of value for Derrick Henry. So that's not good. Maybe you could get Ramondre Stevenson. Maybe you could get like Javonte Williams. Yeah, I feel like Javonte Williams for Derrick Henry might work. But yikes. I don't think anyone is like really trying to acquire Derrick Henry in a dynasty league unless they're in like really a win now moment. You'd probably have to opt for like a wide receiver. And even then you're getting someone maybe like Adam Thielen. Maybe you could get Adam Thielen for Derrick Henry. But given how he's been playing lately, maybe not. That's who I'd try to get. Adam Thielen. But you have to try and get someone in a similar age range in a dynasty league. Long term, you can't really get someone like really good that's young. I worry about that Henry trade, but Debo's legit. You could probably get like T. Higgins maybe, because we don't know where he's going to play next season. You could maybe get I'm trying to think. Maybe like Quentin Johnston, perhaps, because Debo's much better right now, at least today. But QJ's going to move up the board. Maybe you could get Jacoby Myers. I'd be shocked if you get someone like DK Metcalf, though. That's where I'd be like, whoa. Probably not. Debo Samuel for Nico Collins would be really interesting. Debo Samuel for Drake London would be really interesting as well. I think that's the type of range. But I feel like I've spent a lot of time on this question. Let me move on. And should I bench Debo for Brian Robinson, Pierce, or Zach Moss, or keep him starting with that tough matchup? I think I'm going to keep him in my lineup. I don't really love the upside with B-Rob. Don't love it at all with Pierce. I think he's the one you want to bench for sure there. And then Zach Moss has some upside, but yikes. It's just so hard to trust. Like, when will Taylor get involved? When will he not? I think I'm just going to stick with Debo. I think from a floor standpoint, you have the highest in that spot. But it's full PPR. It's not like he's been catching a lot of passes lately, but he should catch more this week. I'd still stick with Debo. I would stick with Debo. But Brian, oops. Yeah, I understood. But probably Amari Cooper. Oh, Amari Coop. Yeah, okay, that makes way more sense. I was fucking shocked. But Cam Daddy is clarifying Garrett Wilson for Amari Cooper and Pittman. Laugh my ass off. Kind of worried about getting rid of Garrett Wilson in case things are going to get better, but I doubt that happens. I doubt that happens as well. I think a straight up trade of Garrett Wilson and Pittman is not that far off. So to also get Amari Cooper is decent. But you got to hope and pray that Deshaun Watson comes back. He should. He gets paid a ton. You would expect he's going to come back in the next couple of weeks, right? But we don't know for sure. It's brutal with Amari at the moment. So I think the fact that you get Pittman and Amari, I think I would do it. Garrett Wilson is very touchdown dependent right now. And while he is seeing a lot of targets, they're really close to the line of scrimmage. Zach Wilson's the worst quarterback of the bunch, maybe even worse than PJ Walker. So yeah, I think I would get rid of Garrett Wilson for Amari Cooper and Pittman. I think that's good value. Pittman, I believe, is a top 20 option. At the worst, he's top 25, and that's what Garrett Wilson is. So I think that's a legit fair trade. Wilson might have a little bit of higher upside, but Pittman should be better. And when Richardson comes back, even when he doesn't, like I think Minshew gets him the ball efficiently. He had like 11, 12 targets week 3 versus Baltimore when Minshew was the QB. So yeah, I would do it. Give me Amari Cooper and Pittman for Garrett Wilson. But looks like I'm caught up in terms of questions. Victor Nunez is asking start 2 Flowers, DK, and Ayuk. I'm definitely starting Ayuk. I have him top 15. And then DK is also my lineup. I have him top 20. I would be starting Ayuk and DK. I have Zay Flowers at number 34. It's a top 10 matchup against Tennessee, but it's in London. It's kind of hard to like fully gauge. Sometimes teams don't show up in London, but I think they'll be okay. I think it'll be more of a defensive game though. However, the reason I don't trust Flowers yet is because he's not getting any volume in the red zone. And he did only catch like 5 of 11 targets last week. Not the best catch percentage. That was what was you could lean on previously. But I think there's a higher ceiling with DK for sure, who's probably going to score a touchdown this week. And then Ayuk is definitely the safest, I think, in general. I know last week was a little bit of a down game, but Kittle's not going to dominate as he did every week. Ayuk will get back to number 1 status in San Francisco. So give me Ayuk and DK in that spot. But it looks like I've answered every question, and I have been live streaming for almost 2 hours now. No, an hour and 35 minutes. Yeah, I've been live streaming for quite a while. I think I'm going to call it quits. If there's anyone watching who still has a question and you want to pop it in last minute here, go ahead. But I appreciate y'all sticking with me in the chat and during this video. It's been fun. And if you are in the subscriber league and I've mentioned maybe making some lineup changes, I hope I'm right. I hope I'm not wrong. But there were some starts that I thought were a little bit suspect. Ones that I could recall were like Ramondre instead of what was it? Ramondre instead of Zach Moss. I would go Zach Moss, even Deontay Foreman over Ramondre. I think that one was like huge. And then hopefully whoever has Jeff Wilson doesn't get a bagel in that spot. But Eric Fortis is asking full PPR starting. Oh no, hold on. Let me get your question on the board. Full PPR starting wide receiver Moore and Thielen. Who to flex, Ridley or Olave? From a floor standpoint, I get why you're going Thielen. I actually rank Thielen the lowest, but I think if you're gonna bench Ridley or Olave, I would bench Olave. I think Olave is the biggest like concern at the position. 2 terrible games the last 2 weeks, and with Kamara in the mix and Derek Carr banged up, he hasn't looked too good. It's not a great matchup against Houston, so I would go Ridley at the flex and start DJ Moore, Thielen. I got Olave and Thielen ranked really close together, so I understand why you're going to go Thielen over Olave. I'd definitely go Ridley over Olave, my friend. But David says, great job. Thanks, y'all. I appreciate it. And I think now I will be calling it quits. So that's going to be it for this video. If you enjoyed, hit that like button, subscribe to the channel for more content, and I will see you in the next video. I'm also going to live stream tomorrow morning as well. So that's it for me, and I'll see you next time. My name is Adam Riancho. Thank you for watching. Nice and blunt. There it is.